Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Kamiliya Zahra Alamsyah and my BP number is 20107322032. In this video, I would like to explain the topic 6 of Introduction to Discourse Analysis with Mr. Hanafi and Bu Shilva in the class of Introduction to Discourse of Analysis B. And the topic 6 is about Discourse and Society, which contains 4 points, which are language as a social and local practice, discourse and gender, discourse and identities, and discourse and ideology. So without any further ado, I would like to explain the first point of discourse and society, which is language as social and local practice. So speakers usually have lots of vocabulary and language varieties. The choices of language and its varieties may be determined by the use of language. For example, the use of language in family, among friends, education, religion, and others are different, as we know. And because of that, there are social factors that determine the language choices that a speaker makes, which are, first, to whom we are speaking, the social context of the interaction, the topic, function, and the goal of interaction, the social distance between speakers, the formality of the settings or type of interaction, and the status of each the speakers. Language as a local practice is where the use of language is a way to understand how language operates in society and activities. Here, it means that the meanings that are made through the use of language are based on the ideologies, activities, beliefs of what it means to be in a particular place, time, and in a settings. Next, discourse and gender. Gender is not just a natural and certain consequence of one's biological sex. Gender is something that is socially constructed. So, gender is not something that a person has, but something that a person does. All levels of language and discourse, including the aspects of non-verbal and of various kinds of behaviors, are involved in doing genders. This means that the gender influenced the language spoken by the speaker. Gender discourse studies the analysis of the difference between how women and men themselves use language. For example, one study of Malagasy-speaking people really revealed that women's speech to be more direct in the cultural context, while men's speech was more roundabout. Next is discourse and identity. Identity depends on the context, occasion, and purpose of discourse. It also depends on the space and place of the interactions. In some cases, identities might only be temporary because it's not the only thing that created speakers in the interactions. One thing interesting about the identity issues of language and identity in online chat is that Thomas in 2007 explored the cyber girl and how they use language. By the experiments or the studies, Thomas found out that identities may be different in online spaces. People tend and could create identities through their use of language, which may be distinct from their real identity on offline or real life. Identity in casual conversation. Identity becomes a social constructor self where people continually co-construct and reconstruct in their interactions with others. To sum up, it always different ways of doing identity with different people in different situations. Identity is a negotiated experience in which we define who we are by the way we experience ourselves. And there is also identity in and written academic discourse. So identity in discourse is also important because almost everything that we write says something about us and the sort of relationship that we want to set up with our readers. In writing academic discourse, students or we as the writers need to show both the authorial identity and authority through the text that we wrote and what we want to share to the readers. It can be through the use of stances features such as self-mentions, for example, like I, we, my, and others, hedges, so, for example, might or perhaps, boosters, for example, definitely or in fact, attitude makers, for example, unfortunately and surprisingly, and also we can use the engagement strategies such as reader pronouns, directives, and questions. And the last point is about that discourse and ideology. Threadgold in 1989 observes that texts are never ideology-free nor objective. There are plenty and many ways of ideology that could be explored in the text. The analysis of text may start by looking at the text tool features, looking at the textual features in the text, and then at the explanation. Then after see the explanation, we can interpret the analysis. The analysis may include the tracing underlying ideologies from linguistic features of text, or unpacking particular biases and ideology presuppositions underlying the text and relating the text to other texts and to the readers and speakers' own experience and beliefs. There are aspects that might be considered in the analysis, which are the framing of text, which is how the content of text is presented and the sort of angle or perspective the writer or speaker is speaking. And second one is the notion of foregrounding, which is what concepts and issues that are emphasized in the text. There's an example of the relation between discourse and ideology, that is gender stereotypes in Taiwanese tabloid gossips columns, showing how female performing artists are typically presented as being concerned with their appearance and social pressure in relation to marriage and sexuality, whereas males often focus on their love affairs. These stereotypes are what they are doing is have a connection between giving what readers want to read and increasing the audience and the market share of newspaper. This kind of analysis look at the relationship between language, social norms, and values, and the aim to describe and explains the relationship itself. So that is the example of discourse and ideology works. So that is the end, comes to the end of my explanation regarding to discourse and society. Thank you for watching until the end, and I'm sorry for mistake. I would like to close my explanations on this video by saying thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.